First Class Productions.
When I think of my early childhood, the video game system that comes to mind first is the Sega Mega Drive/Genesis. It was the only console we had when my brain started to create memories. No wonder I have so much nostalgia for games like Sonic the Hedgehog. That's the first game I remember playing. But as a matter of fact, I know that it wasn't the first console I played. My dad used to have an NES, which he gave to my grandma after he bought the Mega Drive. So even though I don't remember it, the NES was the first console I played. Maybe that's why it lingers in some hidden part of my mind. Of course I have memories of playing it later at my grandma's house, and she had a handful of games like Super Mario Bros., Cobra Triangle and Ghosts and Goblins. There was one game that stood out of the crowd, and that was DuckTales. A video game based on my favorite cartoon? For me it was a dream come true. Later I wouldn't get the chance to play the NES very often, but on my 7th birthday I got a Game Boy Pocket with Super Mario Land. Best birthday ever. A month later, when I visited my dad, it turned out he had gotten me another world-changing gift, DuckTales for the Game Boy. Holy shit, I couldn't believe it. I fell in love with it all over again, and it was my favorite game for the system. Until I fell into a Pokemon obsession for a couple of years, but that's a story for another day. My love didn't last for long, because one day a friend put the cartridge into his Game Boy Color and the game stopped working for reasons I still don't understand. What a nightmare. I was devastated. Over 10 years later, I finally decided to buy another copy, and it arrived on Christmas of 2009. I told that story in my 2-part review of the Game Boy version in 2010. Yeah, remember when you had to split videos because of the stupid 11-minute time limit? Now it's 2022, the game is 33 years old, and a lot of time has passed since I played either of these versions. Is DuckTales this perfect game I've cherished since my childhood, or is it just a glorified fantasy? Which version is superior, and is pogo jumping with a cane on the moon good for your health? Let's answer some of these questions. Warning, please consult your doctor before joining us on the moon.
GFrom, the gamer legend, he's come to show you the way in this world of games. GFrom Reviews.
DuckTales was developed and published by Capcom for the NES in 1989 and the Game Boy in 1990. In this game, Scrooge McDuck, the richest duck in the world, is searching for 5 treasures to make himself even filthy richer. I want to be the richest duck in the world too, so this plot is motivating me already. Relatable, isn't it? You can tell that the developers were heavily inspired by their work on the Mega Man franchise. There are 5 levels and you can play them in any order you like. I've always loved this non-linear approach because it makes every playthrough different. In theory, I usually take a specific path, and you'll see why soon. DuckTales is a classic 2D platformer with a unique way of attacking. Simply jumping on enemies doesn't work. I guess good old Scrooge isn't as heavy as a certain chubby plumber. Instead, he uses his cane to defend himself. First, you can swing the cane like a golf club to open treasure chests or swing rocks or ice blocks at enemies. Mostly, you'll use the cane like a pogo stick and bounce around like the mad mallard you are. How the duck does that even work? I guess when you're this rich, you can afford a Super Pogo Cane 2000 plus. Not only is it essential for defeating most enemies, but also to get to places that would be impossible to reach otherwise. It also lets you jump onto spikes without taking damage, which is helpful. It's a really fun mechanic, but it can be tricky to pull off at first. You have to jump with A and then hold B and down to use the cane. Yeah, it's weird, and I had problems with it at first. But you know what they say, Pogo Cane jumping is like riding a bike. Well, you get the idea. Along the way, you'll find many different items. They are either in treasure chests or just appear out of thin air. Enemies can drop items at random too. First, we have diamonds. They come in different colors and sizes and build up your fortune. Ice cream restores 1 health point and cake refills your entire life bar. What? I'm restoring my health! This little Scrooge figure is an extra life, and an M coin gives you brief invincibility. There are 3 difficulty settings. Easy doubles the amount of hits you can take. Difficult, on the other hand, has no cakes or M coins. Other than that, it's basically the same. I guess that covers the basics, so let's check out the levels. Like I said, you can play any level you like, but I'd recommend starting with either Transylvania or the Himalayas. As I personally find the Himalayas more difficult, I always start with Transylvania. This is the horror stage, filled with skeletons, mummies, ghosts and beagle boys? You can only hurt the skeletons when they move. The mummies can either be defeated with your pogo cane or by swinging the cane at the ball and chain. I love the look on their faces. The ghosts can't be defeated. That's especially annoying in small corridors where it's hard to avoid them. You can swing your cane at various objects. The knight armor sometimes gives you treasure chests. Other times the helmets fall off and hurt you. The tombstones also give you goodies. Or ghosts! Jeez, I'm sorry for disturbing your peace! While the levels in this game generally are pretty non-linear, this one is the most confusing thanks to the mirrors. They teleport you to another mirror. Sometimes that means progress, other times not. Also, there are invisible walls, one of which is essential to beat the stage. How would you know that? Oh right, in each level we meet different characters we know and love from the show or the comics. Webby tells us that Huey is missing, and after finding him he explains that there is an illusion wall in this house. Liar!
There are 2 of them.
The first one is the reason I chose to play this stage first. Here we find a chest with a star that adds an extra hit point. Makes the game a little bit easier. One mirror leads us to some mine carts. Just seeing them makes my skin crawl. I don't know why, but I have real trouble getting the timing right when trying to jump out of them. Thankfully, this path is optional. The second illusion wall leads to 2 mirrors. The right one leads us to the boss, which is Magica Dispel. She turns into a goddamn bird.
Wait a minute, a duck that turns into another kind of bird? I'm confused.
This fight is really easy. Either jump on her when she's flying in the middle or lower third, or when she's on the ground. Just watch out for the 3 lightning bolts. After finishing the level, Scrooge hoards his money in the bank, or his money bin, and we get to choose the next stage. Transylvania was my favorite level as a kid, and I can totally see why. The setting is spooky, and figuring out the right way to go is fun. Not even the minecarts and the ghosts can ruin this stage for me. Next, I always play the Himalayas. Can you guess why? This is a snow level, and if we know anything about snow, it's that it's impossible to pogo jump on it. That's just science, yo. Using the pogo cane makes you get stuck and unable to defend yourself against goats and killer rabbits. So either time your jumps perfectly or try to avoid the enemies completely. We drop down into an ice cave, and here we meet Launchpad McQuack.
He appears in every level except Transylvania. I can't blame him.
He asks us if we want a lift back to Duckburg. This can be good for 2 reasons, or more. A level might be too difficult and you want to play another stage instead. Experienced players will probably do it for a different reason. By going back to Duckburg, you bring all the money you collected to the bank. That way you can collect it all over again when you enter the stage a second time.
Because being rich isn't upper crusty enough for a greedy old fuck like Scrooge McDuck.
You can only do this once per stage though. For whatever reason, Huey hangs around here and tells us that Bubba is trapped in ice. You know, Bubba, the cave duck? When you save him after getting past a series of falling icicles, he shows us a secret. Would you look at that, another star. Now we have a maximum of 5 hit points. We're wealthy and healthy. Sweet. Want to know which enemies I hate the most in this game? Spiders. Not only because spiders are spiders, but they are irritating as hell and ruin my perfect jumps. Get down! Come on! Jesus! I can't believe this! Walking across ice is slippery and makes platforming more of a hassle, but we can chuck ice cubes at hockey players, so that's nice. When climbing up this rope, we have to avoid a boulder. By jumping on the Beagle Boy, we can get to another secret area. Exploration is key. After riding on this white chocolate bar, we get to the boss, a Yeti. I'm getting Tomb Raider 2 vibes here. Spiders, boulders, icicles, Yetis.
Now it's official, Tomb Raider 2 ripped off DuckTales. Case closed.
I'd say he's one of the more challenging bosses, and I'm being generous here. It's only because of the snow. Jump on him, then wait for the snowballs to come down. Rinse and repeat. I love the friendly vibe of the Himalayas with the blue sky and snowy landscape. The caves are okay too, with the exception of the spiders. For me, it's the most difficult stage because I keep falling to my death a lot. While I do like this level, it's the one I could do without if I had to choose. Now that we have collected both stars, it really doesn't matter which stage we pick next. I'm going with African Mines. Louis stands in front of a locked door and tells us that we need a key, which is in Transylvania.
So you're telling me I traveled from Transylvania to the Himalayas and now to Africa only to fly back to Transylvania again? What about air pollution, man?
Yeah, so now we're back in Transylvania in search of a key. It's quite easy to figure out where it is. It's in the first mirror we couldn't use before, so this part can be over in only a few seconds. It is possible to explore the entire stage. Getting to the boss transports you back to the level select screen, so it's not really worth it. Back at the level select screen, I once again chose African Mines. Here we run into slugs which are harmless and bats that have the tendency to fall on you. I like the little animation with the stars. You can hit the big crates and get some goodies. For some reason Mrs. Beakley is also hanging around, and she brought ice cream! A lot of ice cream. Thanks, that's enough. I already ate enough of that stuff today, and by enough I mean too much, so I'm good on dairy. In one of the trickiest parts of the game, we have to jump on these green ducks to get across the wide gap. Once you figure out the pattern and the rhythm, it's a piece of cake though.
Please, no cake.
The optional route is well worth it, because here we find one of 2 hidden treasures worth
$1 million.
That's a lot of cash, man. Well, not for Scrooge, but for me.
Watch out for these red plants. They'll bite your ass. Getting past the boulder is no problem. Look how blue that water is. It's beautiful. Hey Launchpad. Now this is one of the most legendary moments in NES history. Check out Huey, Dewey and Louie in the minecart. Let's go for a ride, kids. Isn't it great to finally spend some quality time with the nephews? Oh shit, there's a pit coming up dead ahead. Now this could go one of 2 ways. We die together, or we get out together. Nah, every motherfucker for himself. Good luck down there.
What a heartless bastard.
Haven't seen that kind of cruelty since Mario and Yoshi on the SNES. The Beagle Boys are here as well. So is Webby, who lets us use her seesaw. Whee! There's one thing about this level that I hate. You can't get everywhere in one attempt. At least not to my knowledge. Getting to the hidden treasure means skipping most of the level. So if you want to see everything, you can either sacrifice a life or fly back to Duckburg with Launchpad. I prefer the latter. So let's go! Wait, what's happening? A bonus stage?
I swear I've never seen this. How did this happen?
As it turns out, the 5th digit from the right has to be a 7 when you talk to Launchpad. Crazy stuff. We're jumping on clouds, picking up diamonds that Gyro drops from his plane. Just your average Sunday activity. The boss is the Slug King, who rolls around, and he's really easy to avoid. Overall, African Mines is a great stage with cool secrets and challenging elements. I just wish you could get everywhere in one go. Let's play the Amazon next. It's probably the stage most people see first because it's at the top. It's the most colorful stage of the game. Here we get to fight pissed off gorillas and Kaa from Jungle Book? There is this underground area with spiders which you can skip entirely. Thank you. One cool part is this secret area, which has another secret area in it. Can't get any more secret than double secret. Those damned butt-biting plants are back and just as annoying as ever.
Remember when I said spiders are my most hated enemies? I've changed my mind. My number 1 pain in the ass, rancid, putrid, garbage can enemies have to be the bees.
Those little pricks are always getting in your way and I just want to whack them with a cane. There is this part where you have to hang on Launchpad's helicopter. Of course, a fucking bee tags along. I've died here so many times over the years, it's ridiculous. I'm always slightly paranoid that Scrooge won't hold on to the helicopter and just fall to his doom instead. Mostly it works fine. Once we're in the temple, we have 2 ways to go. Go to Launchpad, tell him to F off and jump to the left to get to a secret area. The most obvious path has us jumping over spikes while escaping from a boulder Indiana Jones style. Dog guards are throwing spears at us. A goddamn statue tells us that we have to pay $300,000 to get past.
$300,000? Do I look like I'm made of money or something?
I say screw that. Wait for a dog to come in and jump on him to get to the vine. How you like me now, you greedy statue? Dewey tells us to use our cane to defeat the treasure keeper. Well, thanks. I wouldn't have figured that out on my own.
Who would have thought that from my whole arsenal of weapons, one weapon That's the right tool for the job.
After escaping the collapsing roof, we get to the boss. There is a second way to get here though. At this part, jump on the treasure chest and grab the secret vine. Here we get teleported to the boss and skip the whole statue fiasco. The boss is a statue. Seriously? This might be the easiest boss, and that's saying something. Be sure to jump when it stomps the ground, otherwise you will freeze for a moment. I'd say the Amazon might be the toughest level along with the Himalayas. It can be hard to avoid enemies and other hazards. Some jumps can be tricky too. It's all in good fun though, and I especially enjoyed the first half. Except the bees. Fuck the bees. We've traveled all over the world, but that's not enough. The moon is hands down the most iconic stage of the game. I mean, we're on the goddamn moon and Scrooge apparently doesn't need oxygen. Air is for pussies. Enemies include RoboCop ducks, flying tentacle monsters, and the aliens from one of the episodes of the show. Most of the level takes place inside a UFO and it's a maze. So many floors to explore. Webby, what are you doing up here? She tells us that we need a key. The key itself is easy to find. With it we can get through the door and pick up a remote control. Bless me bagpipes. Jump on the monster and grab the secret rope. Mrs. Beakley, now I can scratch eating tons of ice cream on the moon off my bucket list. At the top of the UFO in a jumping section that makes my palms sweat, we find the second hidden treasure. Hell yeah. Now we can leave the UFO. With the remote in our possession, Gizmo Duck will appear and shoot the wall, revealing a new path down. Just like Huey told us. Okay, thanks, bye. How did the Beagle Boys get down here? The boss is a giant-ass rat. Weird, but definitely scarier than the aliens we've seen. The rat can be hard to dodge and he can land some cheap hits. The final treasure worth $1 million is... green cheese? I have so many questions. The moon is an amazing level with tons of areas to explore and many secrets to find. Along with Transylvania, it's the highlight of the game for me. With all treasures collected, we fly back to Duckburg when all of a sudden someone steals our shit and a message appears. Come to Dracula Duck Manor?
Oh shit, Dracula Duck!
Not to be confused with Count Duckula. Now where is this Duck Manor? Transylvania? Again?
You know I love this stage, but this is the third time we've been here. Don't you think that's enough?
There are no treasures to be found here with the exception of the ones enemies drop. Other than that, it's the exact same stage, so just make your way to the boss room. Here, Dracula Duck waits for us and he is without a doubt the hardest boss in the game. Don't get me wrong, he's pretty easy when you know what to do. You have to jump on the little bat in order to get to Dracula. But that damn bat flies all over the place sometimes, hurting you. The trick is to stay on the ground as long as you can and then jump on the bat. If you pogo jump before that, the bat will be too high to jump on. After a few hits, Magica Dispel and our arch nemesis Flintheart Glumgold come out of nowhere. You have to race them to the treasure chest. If you fail to get there first, you have to fight Dracula Duck again. Thankfully, it's very easy to get there before them. And this ends the game. The final level is a bit disappointing for obvious reasons, but I like the final stretch. There are different endings for this game. This is the one most people will get. Scrooge finds the treasure and holds on to his title as the richest duck in the world. His nephews remind him that they helped too. Yeah, thanks. He responds in a classic Scrooge manner. Now the DuckTales theme loops for all eternity. A typical NES ending. Nothing special, but not terrible either.
There is a better ending though. You need to collect at least $10 million.
In order to achieve that, I'd recommend collecting as many treasures as you can get within a level, fly back to Duckburg and do it all over again. That ending shows Scrooge on a huge pile of money and the Duck Press calls us a treasure master. What an honor. The dialogue with the nephews is the same.
Did you know there is a third ending? For the longest time I had no clue about this and I find it highly unlikely you'd figure this out on your own because it's so random.
For the third ending you have to beat the game with $0. Straight up broke. Is that even possible? The 5 treasures are worth $1 million each. There is a feature that can help us with that. I never knew this, but by pressing select when you're hurt, you can get your energy back at the cost of $3 million. So basically you have to collect 5 treasures and 1 hidden treasure. With $6 million in the bank, you have to refill your energy twice. All while avoiding the other treasure completely. Sounds difficult. Well, I tried and actually it was a breeze. In fact, I got through the levels quicker and only died once because a treasure chest was blocking my path and I had to kill myself. There's only one problem that I didn't think about. When you finish a level, you get money for the time you had left. You know what that means? I had to wait up to over 5 minutes in each level. When the timer had 1 second left, I grabbed the treasure. Man, what a waste of time. You get a beeping sound when there isn't much time left. So I did the dishes in the meantime and ran into my man cave when I heard the beeping. Now what is that super secret ending that most players have never seen? Oh no, old Scrooge is sad. He lost his fortune in his search for the 5 treasures and will use them to rebuild his empire. Damn, what a downer. But the dialogue is still the same. Hooray, Uncle Scrooge? Don't forget we helped too? Yeah, well give me my money back or I'll throw you in a minecart again and let you hurtle to your death. I really am the richest duck in the world.
Liar!
They should have left this dialogue out, it doesn't make any sense. Why is the most secret ending so negative? I don't know, but I find it kind of amusing actually. I'm glad it was easy to pull off, even if I had to wait a lot.
After beating the NES version many times for this video, I wanted to see how the Game Boy version holds up in comparison.
Compared to the NES version, there's absolutely no downside for this game. I actually prefer this port over the NES one.
Well, now my expectations are high.
At first sight, the Game Boy version seems like the exact same game. Sure, the screen resolution is much lower and therefore the level select screen is bare bones. But we have the same 5 levels. You'll soon notice that while the level themes and the enemies are the same, the layout of the stages are completely different. Sure, they might feel pretty similar at first, but not one of the stages is the same as on the NES. It's like an alternate universe, and I think that's pretty awesome. At first, I had problems with the controls. I played this on the Super Game Boy with a SNES controller. Having just played the NES game, this felt kind of stiff at first, and I thought the controls had a slight delay. That made me die a lot. Then I played it on my Game Boy Pocket, and there was no delay at all. When I returned to the Super Game Boy after that, I had gotten used to the controls and they worked just fine for me. On the Game Boy, I always start with African mines. Yes, you still get the stars in Transylvania and the Himalayas, but that doesn't matter. African mines has the most difficult part in the game where I die all the time. Just like on the NES, you get no continues, so it would be foolish of me to play other levels first when I'll probably die a couple of times here. I'm talking about the parts with the pesky water ducks. It's so hard to get the timing right. You have to be in the right position to even make the jump, and by the time I've positioned myself, the duck is already gone. By starting with this level, I can just reset the game every time I die. The trick is to wait for the duck to appear, then wait 5 seconds until he comes back. That should do it. This version is more kid-friendly because the nephews aren't in the minecarts. Or at least you can't see them. Jumping out of the carts is even more unreliable than on the NES. When you swing your cane at the big crates, 3 diamonds appear. Pretty cool. Watch out, sometimes you get one of the plants instead. That never happened on the NES. All the characters are here as well. What I like most is that you can explore the entire level in one sitting. The bosses are easier in this game because they only take 4 hits instead of 5. So with the exception of those damned ducks, I prefer this version of African mines. I found Transylvania to be even more confusing than on its colored counterpart. That's because you have to drop down at certain points. The characters say the exact same things as before. I got stuck at one point, but only because I forgot that blocks respawn once you re-enter a screen. The minecarts still suck and the boss is a joke, but other than that I enjoy this version just as much. The Himalayas, a snow level on Game Boy. Yeah. On the actual Game Boy it works just fine, but on the Super Game Boy with the black and white color palette you can't see shit. This stage is also mostly fun, especially when you're smashing through icicles with invincibility. This one part is a pain in the butt though. All that shit for an extra life. Not worth it. Sometimes you can drop down a hole, sometimes you can't. That's bad game design right there. What's he so excited about? The Yeti is easier because only 3 snowballs fall from the sky. I'd say this stage is on the same level as its big brother. Overall my least favorite stage, but it's decent nonetheless. The Amazon is very similar to the original. There are differences, but the overall structure is pretty much the same. There are not as many bees here, thank God. The part with the helicopter makes me even more nervous because the frame rate drops down significantly. I've missed this jump quite a few times. And look at this shit! What killed me here exactly?
This happened to me twice. I feel betrayed by the game.
The path to the boss is completely different with gorillas instead of boulders. The boulder comes later. You can still ignore the greedy statue, but getting up the rope is very tricky to pull off. The secret entrance to the boss is a little more obvious this time. Plus you don't get teleported there but drop down instead. The boss is even easier now. I like this version of the Amazon as well, but I prefer the NES version because it runs smoother. The moon has the same basic premise with the key and the remote in the UFO, but the layout of the UFO is completely different. I'd say it's more challenging for sure, and it used to be the hardest level for me as a kid. The key is hidden in a secret area. Getting to this treasure chest is bullshit. This time you don't have to call for Gizmo Duck at the bottom of the UFO. Instead, it's mandatory to get to the top and get past some very tricky platforming sections. Timing is of the essence. At least this way you can't miss the hidden treasure, which is hidden in plain sight. Instead of taking off like on the NES, Gizmo Duck just keeps standing there. So how's it going? The rat is a pushover on the Game Boy. So yeah, the moon is just as awesome as on the NES, even if it's more difficult. Back in Duckburg we get the same message from Dracula Duck?
Who the hell is Dracula Duck? Dracula Duck's even more evil cousin?
You know the drill. Run through Transylvania until you get to the boss. Defeat Dracula Duck and race to the treasure. There are different endings here as well. I didn't even try and I got the good ending on my first attempt. Look at all those diamonds. Awesome. The normal ending is the same, just without the diamonds.
But now I wonder, does this version also have 3 endings? I can't find any information about this online.
It was very easy to beat the NES game with $0, so I tried the same thing here. That meant waiting 5 minutes for the timer to wind down to 1 second.
Imagine doing this on an actual Game Boy. What a waste of batteries.
Here we go, 1 second left. What? That 1 second gave me 1,000 bucks?
I don't need that shit.
This means I would have to collect that extra $1 million and get it exactly right.
I'm sorry, but I sure as hell don't feel like doing that. Now I know why nobody has bothered to share this information.
The sound in both versions is pretty good. The one that plays when you defeat an enemy can get on your nerves after a while, but other than that, it's rock solid. The real star in the audio department is the music. All of the level tunes are among the best the NES has to offer, with great and catchy melodies. Even though invincibility is just a 2-second loop, it makes me feel invincible. The jingle that plays when you collect one of the treasures is classic and reminds me of Mega Man. It's hard to imagine, but the 8-bit version of the theme song is really good and captures the spirit of the original perfectly. There's only one song I really don't care about, and that's the bonus theme. The beginning is awful. But let's keep things positive. Even my least favorite track of the level themes, the Amazon, is incredibly catchy and so much fun to listen to.
I think we need to rank the best tunes. Here are my top 5 songs from DuckTales.
Number 5. The Himalayas may be my least favorite stage, but this music is so uplifting and puts a smile on your face. It's bouncy, it's fun, and somehow really fitting to a snow level. Number 4. African Mines has its own sound, and I've always imagined a saxophone playing at the beginning. This melody is on fire. Or as the young folks say, that's fire, that's lit. Okay, I sounded kind of old saying that. Number 3. Just a great boss theme. It keeps you on your toes and it perfectly suits the mood. Number 2. Transylvania used to be my number 1 track of the game. I still think it sounds like nothing else and is very unique. Every section has its own spooky flavor and it makes me feel so nostalgic. Number 1. While I've always loved this track, only in recent years have I come to appreciate it to its fullest extent. It's wonderfully complex, fun, and puts you in a good mood. Many consider it to be the best NES tune in existence, and I would have to agree. This is 8-bit perfection. The problem with this song is that I always hear certain lyrics in my head while playing, thanks to one man.
It's a soaring song, flying high like a tree.
Curse you, Breath of Loss! Curse you!
Underscoring the life of a retarded mallard on the f***ing moon.
Yeah, even after all these years, that Breath of Loss song keeps getting stuck in my head all the time, and I find myself singing along when I play the Moon stage.
Let's wrap this up.
I beat DuckTales on all 3 difficulty settings and I had a blast. Even on difficult, I don't think this is a brutal game, but I have a lot of experience with both ports. I'd say the Game Boy version is slightly harder, but not by much. As to which version is better, for me both titles are the best games on their system. Yes, that's true, it's my favorite NES game and also my favorite Game Boy game. Being able to play DuckTales on the go was such a big deal for me, and the controls are just great. While both soundtracks are outstanding and among the best you can find, the NES version sounds a little fuller and well-rounded, and therefore I'd say this version wins overall. Plus, stages like the Amazon and the Himalayas are so beautiful in color. Visually, it's a pleasant 8-bit game and I love the attention to detail like the Shining Treasure. It stays true to its roots by including many characters from the show and giving them all purpose. I like that there are several ways to tackle this game. You can just play it at your own pace, you can try and find all the treasures, or you could attempt to beat the stages as fast as possible. Either way, you'll have a great time. The pogo cane is an unusual gimmick, but it works very well and adds to the fun factor. Sure, there can be some frustrating moments. The pogo jump doesn't work that well on edges and the hit detection can be all over the place sometimes. There is some occasional slowdown and respawning enemies can be irritating. The Game Boy version is fairly easy to find and you can play the NES version on the Disney Afternoon Collection, which has a rewind feature and a boss rush mode. Both on NES and Game Boy there's a sequel called DuckTales 2. In 2013 a remastered version of the first game came out as well. I'm glad I finally got to experience these games again after so many years. The songs are stuck in my head all over again and I could sit down and play them anytime.
Both versions get an honest thumbs up from me. For me it's proof that some games aren't just great in your memory, but hold up just as well after all these years. Is it greedy to treasure these games decades after their release? I hope not.
Hey everyone, this is GFrom. Thank you so much for watching the first episode of Season 2. Feel free to rate, comment, subscribe and follow me on Instagram. I'll see you later. Have a nice day.